Seconds, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call this meeting to order. If you please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for being here tonight. It's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you. As is our normal, the first thing we would like to do this evening is ask anybody that would like to address the city. You can have 3 minutes. Anybody have any interest? Now, please, I know that it's tempting, but let's not fight. We can do it one at a time. And who would like to be first? No one wants to be. Okay, who wants to be second? All right, there are no takers. All right, we're gonna move on in the agenda then. But thank you very much for letting me put that out there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're on item number 3 of the agenda. We need to approve the agenda. Questions about it? Otherwise, can I get a motion? Oh, yes.
On the very back of number 18, isn't the special city council meeting the 24th and the regular city council meeting the 12th?
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. Sorry about that.
So,
No, just making sure.
as revised, as amended, so we'd have to have a motion to accept the agenda, if that's what we wish, to accept the agenda as it's been now revised. Can we get a motion of that nature?
I'll make a motion.
Davey, thank you. Can we get a second?
Second.
Dave, thank you. Motion a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. We have an agenda. Let's get started. Chris, if you would please take us through number 4.
Minutes from March 8th, 2016. Recommendation to approve the minutes of the March 8, 2016 City Council meeting as presented. Off-site gambling permit for Cold Spring Lions Club. Resolution 2016-20. Recommendation to approve Resolution 2016-20, a resolution approving an off-site gambling permit for the Cold Spring Lions Club for a raffle to be held at River Oaks Golf Course on May 7, 2016. Accept resignation of Rick Bohannon. Recommendation to approve the resignation of Rick Bohannon from the Planning Commission and thank him for his service. Approval of alcohol license for Firefest. Recommendation to approve a temporary on-sale liquor license for the Cold Spring Fire and Rescue Relief for July 30, 2016 for the Firefest event to be held at Cold Spring Brewing Company's Distribution Center.
Ladies and gentlemen, questions, comments?
I'll make a motion.
Fran, thank you for the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Which one?
Jamie.
Jamie, thank you. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? I just have one quick piece. I want to thank Rick very much for what he's done. When we were going through planning, through the transportation planning and a lot of other things, he's been a very good voice for the community. And so, Rick, thank you very much. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. Perfect. Thank you. Item number 4. Item number 5. Chris, you're on again.
Okay, this is for a preliminary plat for Cold Spring Business Park 3. Should all have a map in your packet and a resolution number 2016-21. This is a request that's actually coming from the city. It's a request to approve a preliminary plat. We carved out a rectangle out of Outlot C in the Cold Spring Business Park. And that's the entire plat, is just the one lot for the purposes of selling it to Rock Solid Storage. The Planning Commission met last week and held a public hearing and is recommending approval of this preliminary plat.
Thank you. Council, questions?
No.
Nothing? All right, so can we get a motion to either approve or disapprove of Resolution 2016-21?
I'll make that.
To approve?
To approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve 2016-21. Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Jan, thank you. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent, thank you. Bless you, Jen. Congratulations on that. Number 6, Chris, please.
Okay. This is to approve the final plat for the same plat. Drawing looks a little bit different. It doesn't have the existing buildings on it or anything. It's just the lot. Again, this request is coming from the city. Normally, you would see these in 2 different meetings, the preliminary and final plat, but it is acceptable to do it at the same meeting, especially when it's a very simple plat like this, just one lot.
And I suppose this probably helps the fact that we're the ones that are asking ourselves to approve it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? So if you want to read 6?
Okay. Recommendation is to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and approve resolution number 2016-22, a resolution approving the final plat of Cold Spring Business Park 3.
Council questions? Hearing none, all those that would like to make a motion to approve it?
Fran will.
Fran will? Excellent, thanks, Fran. Would anybody like to second that?
I'll second it.
Jamie, thank you for seconding that. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent, thank you. We have that approved as well.
All right.
Item number 7.
Continuing with that same lot, this request is also coming from the city, and this is to rezone just that one lot. It's currently zoned R1 residential. The property just to the east of it, where Rock Solid Storage already has buildings, is zoned I1 Limited Industrial Commercial, and we'd like to rezone this lot to that same, so that Jay can build storage buildings on this one. It is an ordinance amendment to amend the zoning map. Planning Commission had a public hearing and is recommending approval.
Questions? Okay, would you want to read number 7
Yeah.
for us, please?
Recommendation is to adopt ordinance number 345, an ordinance amending the City of Cold Spring zoning map by changing the zoning of Lot 1, Block 1 of Cold Spring Business Park 3, according to the plat and survey thereof on file and of record in the office of the county recorder in and for Stearns County, Minnesota, from R1 low-density residential to I1 limited industrial commercial.
Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Dave, thank you. Can we get it seconded?
I'll second.
Jan, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. Thank you very much. That takes care of item number 7. I believe we are now on item number 8.
This request is coming from Jake Saponiak. For those of you who don't know him, he owns the existing storage buildings just east of the lot you just rezoned, and he would like to build storage buildings on this lot and consolidate the 2 lots into one. And by doing so, he doesn't have to meet the side yard setbacks that you would normally if you had 2 separate lots. It won't be one big lot, but it will be one parcel of record. Jake, do you have anything you want to add, or?
No, yeah, the point of this, I guess, would be so I don't have to have a strip of grass in between the 2 parking lots, that way they'll all connect together and you can drive from one to the other without
One tax statement.
5 feet of grass. It looks kind of weird. So,
True. Do we, and thank you, do we have to do anything as far as it's easements, or do we have to do anything special?
The next item on the agenda is to vacate the easement between them,
Okay?
but other than that,
Then I'm not going to ask that question just yet.
okay,
Okay.
yeah, save that one.
Okay, I'm going to save that
So,
question.
Planning Commission had a public hearing and recommended approval of this.
Okay, so if you read, council, any questions about item number 8? Okay, if you'd read number 8 then for us, please.
Recommendation is to approve resolution number 2016-23, a resolution creating a lot consolidation at the request of Rock Solid Storage LLC, owner of 2 lots in the Cold Spring Business Park.
Can we get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Dave, thank you. Can we get it seconded? Jan, thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, now this time you can tell me about
Yeah.
vacating
Okay, so the next request also from Jake is to vacate an easement. Looking at the same map you just had, if you'll notice the lot on the east side, his existing lot, has an easement on the west side of it. And he doesn't need it anymore, the city doesn't need it. Brian gave his approval of that, I believe. The plat for the new lot does not have an easement on the east side, so he'd be able to not have any easements running between the two of them.
So in addition to not having to have a 5-foot wide strip of grass, you also don't have to leave extra space for an easement that you don't need?
Right, yeah.
And you're,
Well, it is to put the buildings as close together as possible, I guess.
and you're liking that idea?
Yeah.
Okay. Council, any other questions? If you would read that one for us too, please.
Recommendation is to approve resolution number 2016-24, a resolution vacating a drainage and utility easement on Lot 7, Block 3 of Cold Spring Business Park.
Can we get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Dave, thank you. Can we get it seconded?
I'll second.
Jan, thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. Thank you again. I believe that's,
That's it?
that's where, now you get to what? Build a building, sit at the table and tell us stories?
Right,
What do you do? Thank you. We appreciate very much your working with us, and continued success. Do you have an idea when you might want to, that's right, we still have to do the purchase agreement and all that kind of stuff?
Next week we're closing on the lot.
Next week, we're all closing on it, and you're breaking ground?
Probably week after that.
Week after that?
Probably get a permit, yeah.
Okay, excellent. I appreciate it. Again, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Jake.
All right, on the agenda, we're up to item number 10.
Jim, do you want to?
Please. Please. Thank you.
Jim Wenner with the Wenner Company. With our purchase of the Super America, which should go through in the next 2 weeks, hopefully, from RPFSA, we're just asking for the cigarette license to be transferred from RPFSA to Wenner Company doing business as Super America of Cold Spring. That's simple.
And,
Just needs council approval.
okay, and the staff has already reviewed it, and there's no reason to not do it, everything's fine with it?
Yep.
Okay.
Everything's fine.
Questions?
No.
All right, then if you would be kind enough to read out number 10 for us too, please?
Recommendation is to approve the transfer of a tobacco license for Super America from RPFSA to the Wenner Company.
Can we get a motion, please?
I'll make,
Jamie, thank you.
I'll second it.
Dave, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Mr. Winter, I believe congratulations are in order.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that something get registered with the state, or,
Pardon?
does that get registered with the state, the tobacco license, or?
No.
No, okay.
Once a year, they ask us to send them a list of everybody who has one. I don't know if it's really a registration so much as informational,
Okay.
so.
So we just want to make sure we don't transfer it till this closing happens, not that there's a
Right.
Yep.
We don't intend to do that.
a hiccup in the way. Okay.
And then it gets renewed, we told me June 30th.
Yep, yep.
And we'll apply for renewal.
Excellent.
Okay.
And unless I'm out of line, which would be a first, can you give us a status update for the new facility that you're planning and proposing to build?
Yep, we're just currently working through our final loan documents with the Small Business Administration, and as soon as those go through, we should be going forward. We
Excellent,
can turn some dirt.
excellent. But we're still planning on hopefully early this spring, and so everybody should be,
April is what I'm shooting.
1st of April, so everybody should be looking forward to it?
Yep,
Excellent, super, thank you.
you're welcome.
All right,
Thanks, guys.
item number 11 on the agenda. Chief Smokey Dan, your turn, buddy. Item 11, it is Dan is here. Dan Weber is our fire chief, and he's here to give our annual presentation on what happened with our fire rescue squad for the past year. Dan, the floor is yours.
Just a few things that I want to talk about. It was a very busy year last year. We had 398 calls, which is a lot. Usually average around 330, somewhere in there, so it was extremely busy. Just in December alone last year, we had 50 calls in 1 month, so it's crazy. And out of those 398, 335 of them were in Cold Spring, so the town is pretty busy. A few other things. Happy to say that we were under budget by $7,500, which was good. No big crazy bills that ended up having to come to us, so. A few other things. July 30th of this year is our Firefest concert. It's also Hometown Pride weekend, Hometown Days or whatever it is for Cold Spring. So the whole day is downtown here, and then after 4 o'clock the gates open. We have 4 bands booked at this time. The headliner is Ban Perry, Eric Pasley, Joe Diffie, and Mitch Gordon. And we're still trying to look for one more yet. Last year was a good year. It was a lot of people up there, and it was quite warm. But food went good, and most of the people behaved, I guess, pretty much. Wasn't too bad.
Ticket sales doing?
We started this year
Early?
very early, and it's not real, it's about normal. It's not below what we hoped at this time, but we're starting to push it on the radios and things like that, so.
Dan, we may have asked you this before, but is there any incentive for a person to start looking at the tickets in advance?
Right now, at this time, the tickets are $50. I would say we're in, end of March, I would say probably the middle of April somewhere, they're gonna go up. We'll be announcing it on the radio and things like that, so people can know about it, but right now, the tickets are $50
Okay.
for 5 bands and 8 hours of music, so.
Excellent. And sponsorship-wise, you got,
Last year, we ended up with, I want to say, close to 50 sponsors we
Okay.
had. This year, we're real close to that again, so local businesses, some of them up in the Albany, Avon area, you know, in Painesville. So people who would like to sponsor, please get a hold of me or get a hold of City Hall, and we can try to hook you up and see what we can do.
excellent, excellent, thank you.
Are they doing the oversized camping?
Yes, there's, I think we have 100 campsites. Last year, we were real close to filling that up, so, which helps where they can stay overnight and not have to drive home. And it's primitive camping, so there's no fires out there, so it's just stay by your camper or go to bed.
Excellent.
But
With regards to the annual report with the number of calls and everything, one of the things that I know we have talked about in the past is recruitment. How are we doing staffing-wise? With this many calls, we obviously need personnel.
Right at this time, we are at 25. We'll be putting 3 on. We had the interviews already. They're going through their physicals right now, so hopefully within 2 weeks, once we get the okay from the doctors and stuff, we'll get them on, and then we'll be up to 28. We still have 2 openings, so if anybody would like to apply at City Hall, please. It's a lot of time committed to the community, but in the long run, it's worth it when you see the person walking around in a week or so. So yes, it's very much a commitment with all the training and stuff. So
Excellent. Council, any other questions for Dan?
Have you had the meetings with the townships already?
yes, we did.
Okay.
Yep. Went good. I was at Wakefield, and I was at Luxembourg. That one real good. I'd also like to thank everybody for the continued support. Anytime we get donations in, thank you very much for that. And if you come up to Fairfest or come to the open house that we have every other year, I mean, it's great. I think we had like 300 and some last year again, so.
Excellent. Council, anything else? Otherwise, I think we should extend one more time a thank you to the Fire Rescue Squad as a whole, and to you in particular for all of your efforts. We as a community, do very much appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
All right.
Dan?
Thank you.
All right. Next thing on the agenda will be Brian, our city's engineer. Brian, if you'd like to come up and talk with us, please.
Isn't coming. Actually, testifying in the cities or something.
But apparently that's not happening.
He didn't need anything.
Okay. Please, sir.
Mr. Mayor and Council, quick updates on, first we'll talk about Red River Avenue. Project is currently being advertised. We are bidding on April 14th. So we haven't really heard a lot yet. It's pretty early. Activity usually picks up about 5 to 3 days ahead of the bid is when everybody starts looking at it. But we'll start hearing some calls come in, some questions. So currently it's out for bid. It should be in today's record. So if you've noticed up by the roundabout, the utility companies have started some relocations up there. There's some new power poles in place. CenturyLink was in, I don't know if they're still up there. They were for a while on the right-hand side by the brewery parking lot, moving some of their facilities. So things are starting to shake. We met with Xcel, I think last week, and we're going to meet with them again tomorrow, talk about the utility relocations. So that's working on that process. We don't have an estimate from them yet. We're still trying to determine exactly where some of the we can locate some of the facilities underground behind businesses, etc. So we're working very closely with our contact at Xcel on those things. One of the things that Jamie had brought to my attention from the showcase was there was a lot of questions about access during the project, one of them specifically to the medical clinic. We have some plans in place. We're going to be trying to tie the brewery and medical clinic parking lots together so that we create another access point. And then we'll be working with the contractor during construction to maintain access so people still are able to get to the medical clinic. It won't always be a nice paved road, but we'll do our best to maintain access.
Excellent. Thank you.
Otherwise, I do have, I think was included in your packet, an easement, utility easement. That would be for Xcel Energy at up by Veterans Park. In order to put the utilities in right now and avoid the current roadway and let people still drive on it, we had to put a pole closer to the east line of Veterans Park. Off of that, we have to run down guys. Those are the anchors that come down from the power poles. They hold it taut in the event of an ice storm is why they're there, is to hold the lines from all the way to the ice from collapsing. So we need to put some anchors into Veterans Park. They usually have to be in line with whatever line they're attached to. So we've talked about this at the city level. So we were looking to grant a utility easement, allowing them to put those anchors into the park, outside of the right-of-way into city property. So it's a necessary part of where they're relocating the power.
Will the supports stay there even after the project?
The anticipation is, I think the brewery is kicking in some of the money to relocate away from their building currently in the event of future expansions. And so far our discussions have been with the brewery that after the construction is done, they'll then shorten that span so it won't be in the park. So that's what we anticipate.
Okay. Okay. So you're looking for approval of the perpetual utility easement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there something that we need to read? Is there something like on line, or item 13?
Want me to read that?
If you would, please.
I would love to.
Excellent.
Recommendation is to approve a perpetual utility easement to XL Energy in Outlot A of Brewery Edition.
Council, any questions about that? You understand where it is and why it is? Okay, can I get a motion to approve or disapprove it, please?
I'll make the motion.
Fran, thank you. Motion to approve it. And can we get a second?
I'll second.
Jamie, thank you. We have a motion and a second. And any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent, congratulations. Thank you. What else you got for us, sir?
Any other questions on County Road 2 before I move on? You ready for a fun summer?
Excellent. It's going to be.
Then just a couple of updates on the wells. I think John is not here this evening because he is there. He and Brent are talking to the Legislative Water Commission about a lot of our well-related, trout stream-related issues. So that's why they're in St. Paul talking to them tonight, so that's why he isn't able to join us. City has a meeting tomorrow afternoon with the Fraleys to continue talking about the additional acreage we're looking to purchase and come to some agreements and close on some land.
Excellent. What else?
That's about it.
Okay. Council, what question have you been seriously wishing you could ask Brian? Which question do you kind of want to ask Brian? Then we should just dismiss him?
You remember we talked about the gate, the wrought iron between the two on there? So I was up in St. Cloud at the new Chipotle over on the east side of town, and they have something similar. And it actually looks really nice. So without having, if anybody wants to visualize it, they have, I don't think it's granite, I don't know what it is, but they have blocks a gate on the main street there,
Okay.
on Division Street there. So,
The tree with the ribbons, do I stay or do I go, or what's that mean?
If the trees have a pink ribbon around them, they go.
They go?
Yeah.
There's a few of them there, isn't there?
A lot of that's been coordinated through the county. The county was the one who went and purchased temporary easements and paid for trees. We're responsible for half of that cost, but they were the ones who coordinated it.
They've been there for a while, haven't they? huh?
Yeah, a lot of the big ones you see are down by Brewery Creek.
Yeah.
And some of those really need to come out anyways, just to clean up around there, where they're starting to grow into the wing wall of the box culvert, which is a bad situation.
Do you think the city can get something going with tearing down that one building, that one well house or something while we're cleaning up, or is that not possible?
I don't
or-
think we can yet. I think we have to wait until we actually abandon those wells before we can go in.
Even that one that we had agreed that, to tear down for $5,000 that time?
That one, I'm not sure.
I understand the other one, but there's this one with it's totally abandoned. It was supplies was in it, and then Mr. Hessian had asked for $5,000 to clean it up, and we never cleaned it up. Can that get cleaned up on that street project, or is that not possible?
I don't think we'd want to do it with the street project. I think if we want to do it, we want to do it separately through the city.
Right. The city can clean it up themselves?
Yeah, I think it would be better off for them.
Wasn't there some concern about lead paint and
And yeah, you would have to get a lot of evaluations on it
Right.
before you'd be able to
there's
tear
some
it down.
contamination?
there was some concerns, I don't know if they ever had it tested, but there were some concerns about it.
Sure, and if that's,
Asbestos maybe, I don't remember what they were.
if that's the case, it might be easier to wait until the others get tore down, do all those assessments and abatement at the same time.
Okay.
But I mean, if we wanted to, I would say the city could go on their own and do that. It's not something we really want to.
No, I
include with the
realize
road.
that with the project, but I just thought since it's tearing down time and I go, that is an eyesore, so if that's a tearing down, and maybe we can tear down with other people watching the other stuff being torn down, so.
Yeah, if we're going to beautify it, let's beautify. Yeah, if it makes sense, we should probably look at doing it.
But if it's got some bad paint in it,
They had to do the same thing on the houses that they took down. The county brought in a third party who goes through and she inspects the house, takes samples of the siding, of insulation, of paint, of a ton of stuff, sends them off to a lab somewhere. They come back with a result of what is hazardous, what isn't. It comes down to even glazing in windows, etc., that used to contain asbestos. So I think on some of those, they were taking out the entire window and disposing of it separately. So it's hiding in a lot of places.
Okay. Brent, thank you. What else you got? Jamie?
Nothing.
Okay. Brian? Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Anything else? Okay. I think we're now on Chief Boucher's turn. Yeah, that's it. Chief, if you would, please join us.
All right.
The Cold Spring Richmond Police Department Chief Chris Boucher is here to give us his annual report on the performance of our police department. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks. Thank you. If we could do December's first, I think that was added on. So if you would look at the separate page other than your booklet there, it just said say Cold Spring City Council meeting, March 2016. You see that? Excellent. Yeah, that's it. I'd just rather do this one first, then we'll go back into the whole year. So this just talks about the month of December. We had 321 calls just in the city of Cold Spring. Like Fire Chief Weber had stated, we had the Cold Spring Police Department, Richmond Police Department, responded to 33 medicals. That would be just in the city limits of Cold Spring. So that's a little bit more than one a day. The guys handled 2 city ordinance violations, 8 suspicious vehicle people reports, 146 traffic stops during that month with 123 warnings, 61 citations, and 132 contacts of people calling us requesting police services. We also had 8 drug violations and 11 alcohol violations in the month of December. Then we also located some marijuana wax. That's a new style of marijuana that people are using. It kind of looks like molasses. What they do is they concentrate marijuana using butane. And then what they do is it comes out like in a syrup form. And then it goes from, let's just say, 9 to 12% TH, the stuff that makes you high, up to like 80-90% to make you high. So it's very addictive, obviously, and very dangerous to make when you're throwing butane to try getting this to get that syrup to come out. And then also that same month, we had a subject, and it happened to be the same person with that marijuana wax, had gone into someone else's home and had a struggle with someone in the house. And obviously, we made the arrest, and he is serving time as we speak. So that's pretty much been resolved. Just to give you a little idea, so besides the 321 calls in Cold Spring, during that same month, we had 79 in Richmond, 9 in Wakefield, and 111 basically TZD traffic stops in that month. So that the grand total for the month of December that the police department actually handled was 520. So obviously that is quite high. So now if we can go to your books, your packets, whatever you want to call it. Obviously that first page just covers the left column is like the investigator float, the police officer spot, the canine handler. As you can see, it goes down that line.
Hi.
And then it just talks about the bottom paragraph, about 9 full-time currently, 4 part-time, and then we have 4 fully equipped squad cars, and then the canine unit, a 4-wheel drive truck, speed trailer, and then obviously the dare car. The second page. That just kind of covers the call load. So if you look for 2015, there was 5,635 calls. That's 446 more than last year. It is kind of deceiving because it is only 446 more, but since we no longer cover Wakefield, basically the increase in Cold Spring was 942, so almost 1,000 more calls in Cold Spring since we stopped taking care of Richmond. We're on page 2. the call load on the department, right there. And then it just kind of breaks it down. So Cold Spring themselves had 3,642 calls. Richmond had 1,109. Wakefield had 91. Some of those were medical, some of those were traffic stops going between Richmond and Cold Spring, and various other assists that we helped the county with. And then TZD, that's where we work overtime in St. Cloud and various other places. That was 793. And pretty much that 793 is almost 100% traffic stops. There's very few. There might be some in there like canine assist for St. Cloud. They would be under there, those kinds of things. But there again, that might equal 20. You know what I mean? So that tells you how many traffic stops. This number isn't in your book. I just wrote it down for myself. In 2015, to give you an idea for TZD, the city of Cold Spring had a reimbursement of $31,443 that the city got. We worked them, the city paid us, and then the city got a check, to cover those hours. So that is obviously quite a bit more. I think last year was like 21,000. So I mean that's quite a big bump. But when you have new officers coming here, they maybe have some more free time than the other guys that had been working here. Whether they're single or whatever, but they'd rather, work some extra shifts. So that's where a lot of those hours came from. Let's see. So we talked about Cold Spring. We talked about this already, 942 calls more than last year. Let's see, where am I? Oh yeah, 655 more traffic stops occurred in Cold Spring. And there again, it reflects not having Wakefield. But if you look, we had 1,725 traffic stops. In those, 1,390 warnings were given, and 973 offenses were cited. Officers responded to 214 emergency calls here in Cold Spring. The police department has found 27 open doors. Those would be in businesses that would be found open after hours. And then we responded to 137 suspicious people, cars or vehicle activity. And then in that next section just talks about things that have been added in 2015. One being the wall mount vault, that's for that prescription drop box. And to give you an idea, I just called that today. I called Stearns County to give an idea. Now, if you think about this, it would be St. Cloud, St. Joe, Cold Spring were one of the and Stearns were one of the very first ones to get these vaults, right? Since then, all the other cities have been getting them, like Painesville, Sartell, Melrose. This blows me away. Just in Stearns County last year, there was 4,452 pounds of medication dropped off in those boxes. 4,452. That's an unreal amount. And they are going to get me a number. They're trying to figure out exactly what was dropped off here. But I can tell you right now, most weeks, we're calling them, telling them they need to get here because you can no longer even open that door. So it's quite busy. So if you think about that, I mean, what a package of pills actually weighs, how do you come up with 4,000 pounds? So that tells you how much is actually out there. So I found that number very interesting. Last year, obviously, just like this year, we just did the community showcase. We received a DARE grant fund of $1,075. That bought the Counteract books. We're going to be going back to DARE to let you know. This summer, Ruben's going to be going to DARE school. We're going to go back to DARE because their books have been upgraded and so forth. We've had Counteract. I had taught DARE when I was there, so I think it's like 5 years that we've done Counteract. I could be wrong by a few years. But now we're going back to DARE, so we're doing that. And then we just received a matching grant, which we've talked about, that $3,250 for an additional computer for squad cars. And then the swipers, so when we get a traffic stop, we could swipe the driver's license and it prints it out. Instead of having to physically rate these tickets out, hand them to Angie, we actually swipe them, they get sent. It's much quicker that way. So we're gonna be getting those here hopefully by July, as we're gonna get those installed. We did the mock crash last year at the high school in Cold Spring here. We had the big truck night we do every year. We talked about the hometown pride. We assist with security on that. The Firefest concert, we do security on that. August 28th, that's when they renamed the post office, Tommy Decker. We had the first ever National Night Out, this 2015. That was the first year we've ever done that. We conducted a bike safety event. We've done that every year since I've been here. We did a shop with a cop in Sauk Center, and then I also went to one in Litchfield because they were short officers. And then we also, this year, for the first time, we helped Secret Santa pass out $500 to 10 people. So that was very neat. So that was something for the first. Then if you go to the Richmond, that'd be the one right below that. They had 1,109 calls this year. That's an increase of 151 calls from last year. And there again, that has a lot to do with not covering Wakefield anymore. They had 570 traffic stops. Of those, we had 451 warnings and 272 citable offenses. We went to 56 medicals. To give you an idea, I just added it up before we came here. The grand total of medicals that the Cold Spring Police Department and Richmond Police Department went to is a grand total of 275. So that's how many we responded to last year. And traffic stops, it was 2,952. So almost 3,000 traffic stops occurred between the 9 officers, 9 full-time and 4 part-time. And of those, there was 27 DUIs given out, which isn't a huge, not a huge amount. It kind of gives you an idea. For example, Richmond had a grand total of 5 last year. So 27, meaning the rest occurred either in Cold Spring or during TZD when you're in St. Cloud. So that number is not shocking. Let's see here. We went to 56 medicals in Richmond, 15 open business stores, and 70 suspicious vehicles or persons. And there's a mistake there. It says 2014 under River Lake Days. It should have said 15. So I did find one error there, Ange. Darn it, I hate that. We worked 25 hours in 2015 for River Lake Days. That doesn't include the hours for the parades and the car shows and stuff like that. That was just working the grounds. We did do a mock crash for the city of Richmond in August. The fire departments helped us out and various other businesses. We did another bike safety event at the trail head in Richmond, for Richmond. There again, we had the first National Night Out in Richmond's ever had. They did beat us, by the way. They had over 250 people attending. Cold Spring had 175, 200 people. So we did get beat there. I did speak at a DARE graduation with Abby on November 12th in Richmond. Then if you would go to the next page, the crime prevention. We did talk about this, that counteract. We taught, Ruben actually taught counteract. That's similar to DARE to about 200 kids at the middle school, so it'd be 6th graders. We're gonna be going back down to 5th grade next year. We talked to kids about safety and weapons in school, grounds, to that public speaking event. I spoke to 2 DARE graduations. Obviously, we talked about the Richmond one and the one in Rockville. I was asked to go to the Rockville one. I also did the North Junior High Career Day event again this year. We did canine demonstrations in Cold Spring, Richmond, Ean Valley, and also Litchfield this year. I did talk to they have the youth skeet league team, Cold Spring. It's not affiliated with the school, but a lot of the kids that are from Ricori are members of this. They practice in Kimball, and I had a chat with them about, not more or less about not bringing their guns to school and what's acceptable, not bringing, ammunition and things like that to help prevent that from occurring. We got none of those complaints, which is great. We also got a bike this year, a bike we're going to use on the trail and so forth. It says police, it's got first aid equipment and stuff like that in there. We got that through the Cold Spring Lions, donated for the equipment for the bike, the bag, and the medical stuff. So that was really cool. And then we did the troops, the daycare, things like that. We do those tours. And then Officer Hoffman joined the Central Minnesota Human Trafficking Task Force. We had talked about that in previous councils, like what can we do to help out. And she goes and does like special details. So it's not like she's working full time with them. If they have an event, let's say they're gonna try busting some Johns, right? They'll actually, they'll send 10 of them, let's say one from Cold Spring, one from Way Park, from a couple from St. Cloud, a couple from Stearns, to kind of join this organization. So she's a member of that. So we could say we're a member of that. And then we also created the police blotter. and that was with the Cold Spring Record, okay? And then I also forgot two other things. Fraud presentation. It's a PowerPoint that Officer Reverman has put together. He's done it several times. We did it at the senior center. I was there for the one. I think there's like 40-some people there, talking about phone scams, mail scams, just door-to-door people kind of scams, things like that. That goes really well. So we start doing that. And then we also have a Facebook account, which I'm not a fan of, but we do have a Facebook account. And we do have that up and running. Not saying I'm not a fan of it, but the things I've seen on other people's Facebook accounts should probably be left off. But ours is very clean, so we don't have to worry about that. The next thing is a canine program. Obviously, this year we have Abby and Riley going on now. Riley just came back from certifying again, and I hope to certify with Abby here soon. Let's see. So Abby's 10. She's going to be 11 here on May 26th. Abby and I have had about 36 drug arrests, so that's down quite a bit. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Generally, I've been probably consistently around 70, but obviously I'm not on the road as much. So I'm down to about 36, but it's still fairly high for even a normal handler and a dog. That's a fairly decent number. And then Riley's a 2-year German Shepherd, and he's with Sergeant Bloom. What's nice about Riley is he also is a tracking dog. So if somebody's missing or we're trying to find somebody, he can actually track people and articles, which is a very neat thing. Abby's not capable of doing that. She's not trained in that. Riley and Jason, Sergeant Bloom has had 38 drug arrests this year, which is nice. So that's kind of, if you look at it, that's about the 70, 80 that we typically have had. So that's very nice to see. We talked about him tracking, and he actually was using a few tracks. And like I had spoke to you on previous council meetings about getting an apprehension dog. I wasn't really necessarily for one until I was out on a perimeter out by Paynesville, and he was tracking a wanted felon, and I thought, God, if this dog does what he's supposed to do, track this person, when he catches up to him, dog's gonna do nothing. You see what I'm saying? So, and I was like, God, I was hoping he didn't find him because I didn't know what was gonna happen. So that's kind of sold me on the apprehension part. So if we're going to send somebody in the woods looking for a criminal, at least the dog's going to finish the deal, if it has to finish that deal, if you understand what I'm saying. Okay? And we'll get to that here at the very end. So we've done several narcotic sniffs for the high schools. I did one for Kimball just the last couple weeks, so we're doing other schools too. I'm trying to think what other school I just did. I think it was Litchfield. There was another school, off the top of my head, I can't think of it, we just did. And then I'm just going to read these here quick. These are the people that donated for Riley in 2015. Cold Spring, known back in the day as the Granite Company. Cold Spring had donated $4,000. Kathy and Herb Schultz Fund of In Faith Community Foundation donated $3,000 for Riley. An anonymous donor donated $500. Patricia Fazio, I think I'm saying her name right, $300. And then members of the Cold Spring Foundation, the police department, donated $1,700. And we were able to raise that money in less than 3 weeks to buy Riley, which is great news. And also, there again, every year I always say this because it's very important. The Granite City Pet Hospital, that's located in St. Cloud by 1040s, they donate all their services and anything like supplies that we need for the dog. So if you think of that, if you have a dog of your own, you know how expensive that could be to get it shots and keep it up to date. So, easily a couple $1,000s a year that they donate in their services and equipment. So if you know the Nelson family or have people that go there, obviously thank them. They've done it for years now. So they help us out immensely, keeping that cost down. And now the next page is the school resource officer. Obviously Ruben Zayas is the school resource officer. He took that over in 2011-12 school season. What's really neat about Ruben is he's able to speak 2 languages, English and Spanish, which in our area, Spanish is very important, obviously. Most of us as officers have taken the law enforcement Spanish, but that's not to say that I even try using any of that on the street. It's unwise because when you even give a brief statement in Spanish, then they assume that you know Spanish. So then they start speaking really fast, and next thing you know, like a sentence or two into it, you're already lost. So I've just found that it's It's okay when you're trying to understand them speaking together, but it's never a wise idea to act or even think that you know what they're trying to speak, because it doesn't work. So we're very lucky to have Ruben on the force. It comes in very handy. Even on the street, there's guys, we stop people and we're like, I don't understand the guy, what he's saying. Grab your phone, call Ruben. Ruben, would you speak to this guy? Ask him for insurance and driver's license, address, you know what I mean? Those kinds of things. Without him, you know, we'd have to use the bridge, and that's very expensive, hundreds of dollars a minute, you know, to use that. So to say that we've saved lots of money by going through Ruben, tons of money. So that works out nice. Ruben also has a tip line at the school, which is nice. So kids can leave messages for him, you know, a little so-and-so has this, and leave, you know, a note for him. So that's worked out really well. The next part is the Central Minnesota Sex Trafficking Task Force. And there again, I've told you that Christy Hoffman, Officer Hoffman, is a member of that. And along with that, she's also corner house trained, which is where you interview kids that have been abused in some fashion or form. Officer Spoden sitting back there is another officer that's trained in that. And then I am also trained in that. So it's very unique to have 3 officers that are trained in that. So that works out really well. Just to kind of give you a brief outline on this trafficking thing. In the first 90 days, they were able to identify 31 women in St. Cloud alone that were in prostitution. 3 juveniles were rescued during this time. And they made, looks like the first 90 days, they had 31 males arrested as Johns, and 7 for felonies hiring underage prostitutes. And currently they're at 100% conviction rate, which is, obviously they're doing a very good job. The next page is awards. The first award would be to Officer Spoden, he's here, and then Officer Christy Hoffman were called to a medical where they helped do compressions, and it looks like a guy had a heart attack. And just recently I spoke to his family. He's still alive. He's still doing really well. So they had gotten that life-saving award back on the 16th of December. And then back on October 19th of 15, Officer Zeiss, the school resource officer, and Eric Boucher dealt with a situation where there was some rumor of a gun coming to school. It was very short notice. It was during, basically when the buses were showing up. So they rerouted the school bus to a different drop-off site, pulled the really little kids off the bus and had a chat with the older kids on the bus and made sure there was no weapons on that bus. So it was one of these things where, you know, thinking quickly on their feet, sending them to a different drop site, pulling the little kids off the bus so they're not having to do the shock and awe to these little kids that we had no reason to believe they had something with them. You know, we went straight to the older kids and kind of had to sit down with what's appropriate to say on a school bus, what's not appropriate to say on a school bus, things like that. So it was more of a learning exercise for the kids on that bus. So that was handled very good. So I wrote a letter to them taking care of that. And the next part is just the service agreement, you know, talking about the school resource officer that we have through the school. And then I am meeting with the superintendent tomorrow morning. We have never had a contract in paper with the school resource officer ever. So we are creating one. Chris has looked it over, and we're getting something in place in case at some point, gosh forbid, Scott Staska leaves, right? And you're to get a new person and then there's nothing on paper. How do you go to explain that one? They did find the file for the school resource officer. The only thing in that file was my resume because I was the first one who applied for that job. So yeah, I'm guessing that file hasn't been opened since like 2001 or 2000 is when I applied for that job. So to say that was the only thing in that file was pretty amazing in itself. Okay, so now we're to the last page so we can keep going here. 2016. Some of the things that we either have implemented or we will be implementing would be the creation, oh my gosh, of the float investigator spot. And obviously Officer Spoden is filling that. And we have been monitoring that, and it's reduced our part-time staff hours tremendously. You know what I'm saying? He's more than reasonable when it comes to switching his hours to fill sick, requests, vacation requests. So it's working exactly what we thought it was going to do. You still have the training hours that everyone has. So, I mean, that hasn't cut back the hours of part-timers training, but, I mean, that's very minor when it comes to that. We're talking a few hours, you know what I mean, at best, other than the first responder training, which is 16 hours. Everything else, we're, like an hour here, hour there, that's way less than the, 15, 20, 30 hours we're using them every week. So that's kind of down, way down. And then going from a Chevy Impala to the Ford SUV, we've gone to that now. So we're slowly transitioning to that, which I have heard no complaints. How it's operating and all like that. It's got a little more leg room, at least easier to get into. They don't quite blend in as well, obviously, as the cars, but there again, we're being seen. And there we talked about the third one is moving from paper citation to an e-citation, where you take the person's driver's license, swipe them. So we're going away from paper tickets, which would be great. You don't have the cost and having the, having to file them, then Angie files them, and they get filed through courts. This will hopefully streamline that, so it'll cut back on some of that extra paperwork. And then we did do this. We did replace the last 4 outdated handguns. So we are now back with all Smith & Wesson, the M&Ps. So we traded those Smith & Walthers, and I believe those were, they're again, like 14 years old. They were before I did the SRO. So, I mean, the guns were definitely outdated. There's no doubt about that. And then we had gotten a trade-in of like $200. Well, we only paid $400 back in the day. So, I mean, anybody that deals guns, they can't ask for much better than that. And then we're starting the fundraiser to replace Abby. I'm looking to replace Abby January, maybe March, April, something like that. You know what I mean? If it works like it worked last time, where the guy flies over there in January, by the time we train the dog and everything else, we're looking at March or April. So just to give you an idea there, we have I know here it says we have $13,500. Just today I've got another $500, so we're at $14,000. I did talk to the State Bank of Richmond, and they're having a board meeting. And it sounds like if they don't give us the rest of the money, it's going to be very close to the rest of the money that we need. So we're almost that close to having it paid off already. So that kind of gives you an idea how quickly we're getting those donations coming in. And if you think about that, that's just coming in from, not even a year ago, asking people to give $9,500 for the first dog. Now we're coming back asking them for another $16,000, and we're almost at that goal already, and we're in March. So I mean that in itself is amazing, to having that kind of people give in for donations.
Do you know what type of breed of dog you're looking at? or-
It'll be similar to Riley. Just for like we had spoken about earlier, an apprehension dog has to be a German Shepherd, Malinois. You know what I mean? That breed of dog. You can't. Well, I suppose I shouldn't say you can't, but I've never seen it done. Take a lab.
Yeah.
It does take some work to get a dog to actually bite, if that makes sense. It's not something that you can just tell a dog, it's something you got to train in a dog, is what I'm saying.
Typically don't bite.
Right, and if you have a dog that bites, that is not a good police dog, because you also, the more importantly for the dog to bite, you need to be able to recall that dog, okay? So recalling means, if I'm chasing somebody and the guy bails out, right? And I open the back door to get the dog out, and the dog is going at him, and all of a sudden, right before the dog gets to the guy's like, I give up, Before that dog gets to that guy that just said he gave up, you have to be able to call that dog and have him come back without biting that guy. Does that make sense? So you can't just be like, open the door, and I don't care what that guy says. That guy's gonna get bit. We don't want that, okay? So the recall is probably one of the crucial things you can have on a dog like that. It's being able to send the dog out, and in the dog's mind, hey, I'm gonna get a bite here. But being able to listen to the handler going, okay, I can't bite, I need to go back to him. That's kind of temperament you need on a dog. So we're gonna I can almost guarantee you, we're gonna go back with the same company we got Riley from, just because that's what this guy does. You know what I mean? He's a cop, for one, so he knows the ins and outs of Minnesota law. He's a Minnesota cop. He's trained, oh boy, I'm going off the top of my head here, 6 dogs, probably 12 dogs a year, if not more, that he trains. And then he's got connections overseas. So we could probably get by with a dog over here, and we might be able to save $2,000, let's just say, right? The problem is, now you're taking a chance of hereditary issues. The hips, the eyes, the stomach, all these things. Where if you go over there, you eliminate the majority of those. Not 100%, but here's the thing. If you get a dog from overseas and it's not going to work out, you literally call Mark, that's the guy that's training him. This dog has bad hips. He either has a dog there to replace it with, or he calls overseas and says, hey, you know what? You sold us a bum dog. And then they send us a brand new dog, no questions asked. That there is a true guarantee. You see what I'm saying? If you get a dog over here, there's probably a fairly good chance, and they say, yeah, okay, nothing we can do about it. It's your dog. And you spend this kind of money, you know what I mean? I don't want, it'd be like buying a new car going, we're pulling it off this lot. There is no warranty on the motor once you pull it out versus you have 30,000 miles for a warranty. You know, which one would you rather have? So to me, it's one of these things you really don't want to mess with. You know, there again, it's also something could get us in trouble, you know, if we don't have the right kind of dog. If the dog simply bites somebody that shouldn't be bitten, or, you know, all these things, we got to be very careful when it comes to that. I definitely want to be careful because why? These officers have kids. You know, I don't want to send him home with this dog and, you know, he nips their son. And it could happen, don't get me wrong. But if you start out with the right dog, the likelihood is highly unlikely. So yeah, we'll probably spend that money on something we truly do want. You know, I don't really want to save money there when we could save money at other things. So and you have to look at it this way. If we spend that 13 or 14, 15, whatever it's going to cost for the dog itself, even if you get 2 or 3 more years out of this dog because it's got the genes from overseas, if you can extend that dog's life on the street by 2 or 3 years, just that money alone will come back, you know, come forth. And the saving the vet bills and everything else. Nothing worse than having to retire a dog that's still 5 years old. You know, then what do you do? Retire him to the guy that has the dog and then replace that dog? That's kind of silly. And then we also, I didn't put this on there, but the replacement of some of the tasers. We're going to slowly, and I know we were going to do that last year already, start replacing some tasers. This year we've replaced 3 this year. Last year we didn't because of the budget. I had no money in the budget. So we just went that extra year without replacing 2 of them. So this year we got into a program that we started, and it was a little cheaper. A little bit more money to buy 3 versus 2, but not as much as what we thought 3 would cost, if that makes sense. So we did that. I'd like to thank Angie because she spends a lot of time back there in that windowless room doing all these reports. It would drive me completely crazy having a room with no windows, but she manages to do very well, so I want to thank Angie for sure. She's always the person on the spot. If you have a question, she normally has before you even sit down, which is nice. So, and she did catch one error before I turned it into you guys, so I appreciate that because that was I don't know what I did there. Any questions?
Counsel, what do you got for him?
What happens to Abby when she retires? Just stays with you?
That'll be a question that'll come up. Yeah, when she retires, I would like her to stay with me. What typically happens, and this will obviously be up to you, but the handler normally buys her for $1. You know, you can't give anything away. So I pay $1. The only thing, I don't know how this would work, is if the city could keep some kind of liability insurance, you know, on her. I don't know if we can do something like that. I don't see her biting somebody, but you see what I mean? I don't know how that would work. And if it doesn't work, I would just get it on my own homeowner's insurance too. Abby would lick someone to death before she would bite somebody, but. So, and if that's, like I say, if it's not something the insurance, the city says that we can do, I guess it wouldn't be a big deal. But yeah, she'll be, like I say, she'll be 11, you know what I mean? And you could tell she's slowing down. There's no doubt. She is definitely slowing down. I have another dog that's a couple years younger than she is. We brought her and the other dog to the park last 2 weekends ago and just throwing a tennis ball. And the other dog was like Johnny on the spot when it came to catching. And it's like, yeah, Abby, you definitely aren't as quick on your feet, you know, as you used to be. You know what I mean? You just notice those things where when you're by herself, and she seems fast, you know? I mean, she's got the white face and everything. And, you know, so I'm not saying that even when she retires, we won't use her for, you know, like this last week we did, I went to all the kindergarten classes with her, you know, which is nice because you know, I don't bring her in before I talk about what's on my uniform and we talk about these things. And then I bring her in because when she comes in the room, she's like bouncing all over the place. So she's very distractive. But what's nice is, I mean, kid could like, she could be run by, a kid will grab her and she'll like stop. You know what I mean? Or you could step on her toes as a little kid and not have to worry, or, you know what I mean? So those are the nice things about her. So I'm not saying that when she retires, she won't be completely retired. You know what I mean? I'd still like to bring her to the kindergarten classes and stuff and, you know, let her around, you know what I mean? She's very truthful when it comes to that because she's always been with my kids. So, I mean, that part of her is nice. So, you know, you never know. You know, dogs, big, large dogs like that, they get 11, they could live 2-3 more years, or 6 months later, you bring them in for, my friend had a lab, brought him in, dog was just limping, brought it in, yeah, it had cancer, you know, in its back hip, and I mean, literally months later, the dog had passed away. So, you know, labs, just dogs in general, large dogs, they get 11 years old. That's pretty old for a dog. You know, it's very old for
You can use her for your PR person.
There you go. Exactly. Right. And yeah. So like I say, and I kind of covered it up, but she slimed me before I got here, so my pants has got some slime from her. I told Angie, I brought her home before the meeting about noon, tied her to a tree in my backyard, thinking, oh, she'll enjoy the day. And I went to turn around to leave, and I looked down, and she had all wet my pants. I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me, dog. So I did wipe off her slime a little bit. But,
Thank you.
so, yes. Any other questions?
Council, anything else?
No?
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Before you get up, we would like very much, again, we, the city, and as well as the council, you would please share with all of the officers how much the city appreciates what you do for us. Again, your report is a bunch of numbers.
Right.
But what goes behind those numbers is every time you respond to a call, you're helping save somebody something. So again, we very much want you and your officers to understand how much we appreciate what all of you do for us. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank your
Thank you very
officers.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
What about letter C? Update on part-time hiring.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so letter C. Letter C is, there's not a whole lot to update you on. We did have one person, and I know this is going to sound strange. We did only have one person apply for that part-time spot because we only put in the record. What I didn't want to do is have a huge influx of people because now we're talking spring. A lot of people are graduating, so it's good and bad. The bad is we didn't have a lot to choose from because it's just the one. But the one we did get was amazing. So, but here's the problem with that. So we're going to wait for the next council meeting to really get into this because I thought I would let you know where we're at because it's been a while. I sat down with him. He did do some ride-alongs. He is in the military. He's, I mean, typical military, just perfect, right? The problem is he's so perfect that he's actually being looked at by Paynesville for a full-time spot and Sartell. So go figure, right? So right after I spoke with him and I had him come down and he sat down, he's like, I got a couple things. I'm like, oh, what's that? And he goes, well, I leave for my honeymoon and I think he got back yesterday or maybe the day before. I don't know, maybe 4 days, something like that. Within the last 4 days he got back. So I haven't called him because I'm like, you know what, he just got home, he's just getting settled back in, so I'll give him a few days. I'll always have to talk to him and let you guys know. But the person who broke, well, then he's like, well, I'm letting you know that I also applied in Paynesville and in Sartell, but I haven't heard anything yet. All right. So I left it at that. Well, of course, 2 days later, who do I see? I see the Paynesville chief, and you know me, I've got to ask him. And he's like, oh yeah, he's one of 4 that we're interviewing here tomorrow, I believe, actually. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And he's like, yeah, but you'll never believe this. I go, what's that? He's also getting interviewed in background in Sartell. And it's like, there's like probably like 0 ways this is even gonna fly. But I have talked to Paynesville because Paynesville does currently have Chad, right? Chad Vogt works, I believe, part-time yet in Belgrade, or used to. So one of our part-timers do work for Paynesville/Belgrade currently. And I did speak with the Paynesville chief and said, hey, if you were to hire him, would it be possible that he works here part-time? Because we don't need a lot of part-time hours, you know what I'm saying? So I said, if possible, and this is the best of 2 worlds, but anyhow, and he said yes, because if he was to get hired in Paynesville full-time, then we don't need to pay to train him. So it'd be perfect, right? Because right now we have these other part-timers that work for other agencies, but we're their main agency. So we're on the hook for paying them to get trained. So now if we can get him hired, and not that I want him to get hired somewhere, well, I do, but let's say he gets hired in Paynesville, he could work here, and then Paynesville would be holding the bills for like first responder training, use of force training, all those things. So the only thing we'd be really down to training would be for firearms training. That you have to do with your department. You know what I'm saying? So if he works in Paynesville, he's got to qualify with them. But if he also works in Cold Spring, he's got to qualify with Cold Spring. But like his first responder stuff, all that can work together, but they can pay for it. They can pay for everything else. So maybe once we could have a part-timer that's actually employed by someone else, but working here, versus us holding their license and they work in another spot and we pay for it, which isn't the worst thing, but it would be kind of nice not having to pay for everyone's training either. So yeah, so I really won't know for sure until, you know, even if they interview tomorrow, they're not going to let them know in the background and all that. So we're still probably a couple weeks away if he does in fact get the job in Paynesville. But boy, if they don't choose him, I'd be very shocked, you know, to be honest with you. But who knows what? But then you also have to realize this: they had a full-time job open up there, and they did advertise here and there, and they only ended up getting, off the top of my head, like 20 people. So that gives you an idea of what's happening with this kind of things that are happening in society now. Who wants to be a cop? Who wants to get themselves in trouble and never have a career?
That's so surprising because I think back when we used to get 100.
Right. Well, if you remember Craig Kritzek, right? Okay. For example, when he applied for this job, I was the very first person to go through all those, and that's why I told Angie, I'm like, I don't want to go through all that again, because when Craig applied for this Cold Spring job, we had 148 people apply for that job. That wasn't too many years ago. So that gives you an idea. But out of those 148, or whatever it was, right? Basically, when I got down to going through that pile, I was down to like maybe 9 people with experience. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying people without experience aren't good and won't do a great job, but when you're talking a department this size without experience, it makes the FTO program and everything go so much longer. And you could go from FTO with somebody with experience, maybe like 3 weeks, right? With somebody with no experience, you could have a couple months into that person, you know? So then you look at that, you're paying the person to train him and this person thousands of dollars. So to say you won't look at somebody with experience differently than someone without experience, oh, by far. And that's why this person here that's getting looked at by Sartell in Paynesville, I forgot to tell you this, he also worked as a dispatcher in the southern part of Minnesota and as a part-time police officer. So he's got the experience of handling the call, whether, you know, people calling in and then him dispatching someone out, but also going to calls. So it was a perfect thing. And, you know, the military experience, you know, I love that. So we'll see. Maybe they'll pass him up, but who knows? Then I'm sure he'll get looked at by someone else. Then we'll pay to somebody get psych and they'll leave. All right. Anything else?
Anything else, Council? Again,
Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we're on point number 15. And Jan, good catch. Point number 15. Chris, your turn.
I have a couple things for you. As you saw on the consent agenda, Rick Bohannon resigned from the Planning Commission. So we are currently advertising to replace him. It was in the Cold Spring Record today. I do have one question for you. I had an inquiry from a resident in Cold Spring who works for Stantec, our engineering firm, and he would like to apply for the position, but wanted to know how everybody felt about that, if you perceive any issue. I checked with Sue, and there really isn't any conflict of interest, at least an official one, and if there was ever a perceived one, he could certainly abstain from voting on that particular issue. But it sounds like he has a pretty good resume. He's a land surveyor and would probably add a lot to the commission. But I get he just asked, rather than go through the trouble of applying, if that isn't something we're comfortable with, he would just probably ask up front.
I wouldn't have any issue with it.
I wouldn't either.
My only issue is, again, he's got to be smart enough, he or she has to be smart enough to know when there's a conflict, and if there is, you have to be able to back out. If there isn't one, again, I think the more experience they bring, the better off we are. So,
Okay,
Again, we're not taking a vote, but pretty much everybody agreed that, all right.
okay,
That
good.
did happen.
Yeah, and like I said, we are advertising, so if you know of anybody who's interested, have them come in.
Did you put a deadline for applications on there at all?
Yes. April 18th.
Pardon?
April 18th.
April 18th, yeah. Okay. Second of all, we got an invoice for our membership with the Greater St. Cloud Development Corporation. And I didn't put it in the bills because I just wanted to discuss it with you first. It's kind of a big deal. The EDA did talk about it. Jamie or Fran, I don't know if you have anything you want
To go with them.
We voted to go with it.
One more year, or-
We need their support for a number of things we're trying to do here, and they have a much larger voice than we have when it comes to some.
And they've been helping us with the water
The
issue.
water, yeah.
So, yeah, we made, the EDA decided to run with them.
Can I just ask, for those of us that are watching this, tell us a little bit, what are they? Are they lobbyists? Are they advocacy group? Are they a chamber? What is it? What are they?
I would say they're kind of an advocacy group there. I mean, they really look out for the businesses as a whole. They try to make as many business visits as they can to find out how do you get a small business to a medium size and a medium size to a large size, and what can they do to help. So, for instance, one of the things the brewery's trying to struggle through is the water thing. So they're trying to work through the legislative side of that for us on behalf of not just the Cold Spring, but the greater area. So they do some, I guess, lobbying, for lack of a better word. But more of it's how do they get small businesses to grow to medium, and how do you grow mediums to large?
Okay, perfect. So it sounds like something that the EDA says a good idea for the city. And now the question that I heard Chris asking is, do we want her to pay that bill and keep us as a member? Are you looking for a motion on that? Okay.
Was
so
this in the EDA budget? I know we had put money in the EDA budget
Yeah,
for
there's
some
money-
items,
There's
but
money there yet for it, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So we agree to join, but we can take the funds from the EDA budget.
I'm going to make that motion.
Fran, thank you. We got a motion to accept and join this organization for another year. Can we get a second?
I can second.
Jamie, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. And then just one last thing I wanted to mention. We did get through our audit last week with Bergen KDV, and it went great. No findings. We're still tying up some loose ends with them, getting the last few pieces of paper to them, and then I dig into doing a management discussion and analysis paper, which is about a 6 or 7 page paper, kind of analyzing the whole financial statement. And then they'll be here, the first meeting in May, to present it. So, but it went very good.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Council, any questions for Chris?
no, but thank you for going through that.
Yeah.
Some people say it's not as much fun as it sounds like. Is that true, that it's not that much fun?
Well, it sounds really fun, so.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Item number 16, list of bills and additions. Chris, please.
Recommendation is to review and accept payment of the accounts payable according to the list and supplemental list presented by city staff.
Let's pay them bills.
Fran, thank you. Can we get a second? Dave, thank you. Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. We'll pay our bills. We're on item number 17, general questions and comments from the council. Jamie, we're going to start on your end this week.
Nothing for me.
Okay, Dave?
I got one, it's not for the city, but it's for Wakefield Township. They've got an open house coming up, April 27th, from 4 to 7, for their new building that they've got.
They have a new building. Where is it?
Out that way. It's on Frostview Drive.
On Frostview Drive. And I understand it's a pretty nice space. Have you been there?
It is, yes, I have.
Okay. and
Very
you-
nice.
Is it, you would agree that it's a nice space?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Thank you.
When was that again, Dave?
April 27th,
April 27th. Are
from
they,
4 to 7.
are they advertising it or anything in case people didn't hear what you said? Are they advertising it anywhere?
Not sure.
Yes, we will.
Okay, so we should be able to watch for it?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, Jen?
I got nothing.
Fran?
Nothing?
Okay,
Oh, yeah, I do have something. We had a meeting with about the city. Had a meeting with Wakefield last night with the planning,
Yeah,
and we discussed roads and transportation, and for our first meeting and everything, we broke some ice, and I think we're off to a good start.
excellent, excellent, excellent. So the two of us can work together nicely. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. And the only thing I've got is this past Saturday, and I'm looking for you guys to chime in here. This past Saturday, the chamber sponsored the showcase, and up at Rocori High School, my understanding, and I was only there for a couple of hours, well attended, a lot of people, a lot of questions, a lot of good comments. So on behalf of to going to the chamber and all the people that organized, all the people that attended, thank you. It sounds like it was a great event, and I understand they're going to do it again next year.
Yes.
Excellent, super. All right, I think that's all I've got. Do you have anything more?
No.
Okay, item number 18, again, it talks about adjournment, but remember that we have a special meeting Thursday night, okay? All right, we need a motion to see if we can go home tonight.
I'll make that motion.
Jan, thank you. Can we get a second?
Second.
Jamie, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Let's go home. Thank you.